is very close. Need we remind you that in the previous matchup against FURIA and XSET, all three of these teams, FURIA, XSET, and Cyclops, all were tied at 3 points apiece. So I have no doubt that this is going to be a thrilling matchup. Will it be a nail-biter? We don't know. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
There it is.
You talked about the Monty ban. Bank is a great map for Montaigne if he was available to play. So Blitz is still available. Fuse Shield is still available if you want to do it.
Osa is available.
Osa is available. And look at that. Aniton. And I took that personally. Vigil also banned out next to the Nook and Montaigne. And these are three operators that, again, are not commonly banned by teams. But these are pocket bans. These are direct counter bans.
That they are. Nook, of course, the only operator so far that also followed along the previous matchup. Kaid follows Troop, which is actually a bit different, because normally the Kite only gets banned if the Thatcher is banned to kind of match it, because the Thatcher is not available to be played. Hatches are hard to get through because you need the Maverick. But in this situation, it's one of those, we ban the Kite so we don't have to play Thatcher on the attack inside. That's going to give you more freedom once you get to that stage. And honestly, if you're a Cyclops on the attack, you want as much flexibility as possible when you get there. So I think this ban makes a lot of sense for them specifically, but they have to defend first before they have to worry about that. So let's see if that ends up biting them in the butt, or if they'll do just fine in the 6 following rounds to come. Open areas start as we expect. One of the, if not the strongest statistical bomb site on Bank, but a bit of a different lineup than what we're used to, because we're seeing a pulse from Gatorada, something that is not played by that many teams these days in Rainbow Six Siege, as the game has gotten more complicated. The UMP, of course, not being the greatest gun to use, but usually at major events, gun's not the biggest difference. Players are so good at hitting headshots for the most part that any gun can do the damage that we need. The Maestros is still our pick. The Valkyrie, of course, we can expect that every single time around. So now the question comes through, are you going to start off with the IQ and respect the Valkyrie information, or are you going to go without it? So far, the only change they've made is going from Maverick onto the Buck to enable themselves with more vertical damage control, and that seems to be what they locked in.
All right, well, first round's a charm. 10 seconds into live action. Setup still happening right now for CAG. They brought a pulse. We actually haven't seen a lot of pulse so far at the majors.
Almost none.
Almost no pulse being brought out. I mean, you've got that 9 meters or whatever scan that you have available.
I think it actually is exactly 9 meters. I think you're correct on that.
I think I'm correct as well. I'm guessing that they were expecting early action because as Gator doesn't really do all that well in the fragging department, Fantasy just runs right over top of them. And first pick goes in favor of Furia. There's an Adrenal Surge used early on. Rare is dead to a Nitro Cell, tossed out by Gatorada. Fantasy sees some bullets trace across from the soft wall inside of Tellers. Down goes Fantasy. Aniton with a big play, still there. Looking for more through the soft wall, dealing tons of damage to STK. Nitro Cell gets pulled out, but STK dusts him off before it can go. Gatorado with the trade back. These teams are just blowing each other's heads off, and there's still 2 minutes to go, and half of the server is dead.
Such a different pace in the exit Furia game, and Fantasy walked straight into the bomb side, skipped over Arkham's Tellers entirely, but fortunately his team is doing good work so far as Handy finds another kill onto Black Ray, now evening back the man count to a 2v2. 1 C4 available for Susu C. He has that available if he needs to. Of course, Pulse doesn't, but they do have a little bit of information. The Maestro cameras, the bubbles, as well as the Black Eye Valkyrie cameras will grant defenders a ton of information. Yellow pings come out. C4, it whiffs. It does not hit the ceiling. It is a whiff and a half, which allows Miracle to stay alive for a bit longer.
Suzu just playing inside of open area. This is the bomb site after all. Cascade flashbangs go off around him. Calm before the storm, not looking the right way. It's Handy and Miracle with a flurry of 2 kills to pick it up, and Furia take round number 1 swiftly after Fantasy stormed the building, and Furia never really let up.
That is such a... I mean, we just saw Furia play against XSET. Completely different ball game in round 1 already. I don't know if it's like a confidence thing or a respect thing or just maybe they've studied Cyclops more. I really couldn't tell you. But it looks as if Furia made the right choice so far going back to Bang, because I was fearing the exact same thing. You know, the same attacking strats, the same operators, and the same kind of lackluster performance in the early stages of the round. But Furia in the first 30 seconds showed exactly what they're good at. The aggression, the early man advantage, Fantasy storming through the map top floor and finds the opening kill with nobody to stop him. And that's gonna force CAG to change up their bomb site priority and take us to CEO, where the defense, well, it wasn't successful for anybody really in the previous matchup. Sure, FURIA, well, they won it on their attacks. So the defending side usually has a really tough time here, and there's no castle to help you, there's no Valkyrie information. You do of course have the mirror, but that's really your only strong suit to help you in this arguably really hard to defend bomb side of CEO. I mean, they have a Frost though. Frost traps, question mark? Pog mats, sorry, that's what they're called.
Oh, for crying out loud. No Warden ban this time. That was something that we'd seen Furia bring out in the previous game. It didn't do them any good. I do find it very funny, and I don't know if you pointed this out, I didn't hear it, that they are so shell-shocked from getting 1v5 that they banned the Vigil. They're like, we saw what Spirits could do to us. They're like, get this thing the hell out of here. We don't want to deal with a Vigil at all. Gone. We vanquish you. Say goodbye. Vigil removed from action. And that's, well, I mean, I guess that's something. Spirits influencing the bans in the very next matchup. We talked about how Monty had a surrogate in Osa to a certain extent and immediately being brought out in the second round and being put to good use. Fantasy with a 5-5-6 in hand, upside down. First kill on the Black Ray. CAG will again trail for the second round in a row, and immediate window control for Furia will be so powerful, especially since there are no impacts from anybody on CAG. The only thing that can take out that shield is a Nitro Cell, and that would be an awful lot of utility from Anaton. Down goes Gatorada to STK, and Furia again looking to set a very quick pace here.
They are, I mean, there's not even any mute jammers or electrification on these mirror windows. They're falling by the minute from the Hibana Palace, the X-Kairos. C4 goes out, Cadenas follows through. The smoke grenade goes handy up on towards Trump. He might get a kill as well for his money's worth, and he does.
Boy, Furia is just absolutely demolishing CAG through these two rounds. They're fired up after that previous game, and you can see that the mental didn't really look like it affected them all that much. There's no sour faces. Players are laughing. Players are cheering. There's smiles all around. And I mean, to be fair, every team that plays CAG, including CAG themselves, always seem to have that attitude in their matches because these are enjoyable games. Are they necessarily the most clinical when it comes to top-level play? Not always. A lot of CAG matches are very messy by design.
Yes.
CAG likes to live in that chaos, as you talked about. But good God, I'm not playing in it, so I don't have to deal with the stresses of a Monty or a Ying coming my way. But damn it if it's not fun to watch.
It is, and I mean, CAG arguably, you know, they kind of came out of nowhere and people were like, who are these guys? But then, not even slowly over time, but like quite quickly as they started making international events, built a very large fan base from wherever they were playing from, because they are, as you mentioned, very fun to watch, because they play a much more loose version of Rainbow Six Siege. They're allowing themselves to make mistakes and have fun while still playing at a very high level, and you thrive in the chaos and create that chaos zone. Right now, 4 attacker repick situations. IQ getting brought out, so does the Dog AP, so you can find members of the opponents on the defending side, find the cameras, then hack the phones if you get an early pick. And then you think about it. If Furia is a team that always plays for open and kill, and if you have Fantasy, arguably like #1 open and kill player in like the world, playing Dog makes so much sense, because that open and kill will give you access to a phone, you can hack it, and now you gain full camera accessibility as well. That is a massive stonks value right there. Rare, bringing out its VLMG for the second round in a row. Look at Fantasy. He's storming through the map again. No drone, no help.
Nobody's dead just yet, but does the ticker at the top foretell of what might happen? Gator is prepared for this, and he does indeed prove it right. The first pick, down goes Fantasy. Furia have been so confident on their entry. Okay.
Oh!
What? Are you kidding me? What the hell just, how
does that happen?
Good Lord, why do you get so cocky? Why would you do that? Oh my God, give me a break.
Trigger discipline gone wrong, gentlemen.
This looked very similar to the Team 1 OXG matchup earlier today, by the way, and all the kills that are happening with CAG in the lead at the moment, they get another pick, is it looks like you don't respect your opponents. Why would you play with your food? Just kill them. You know the Frost is inside of Archives. You know they're on the camera. Just kill them. Don't get cute, Furia. That blunder might have just cost you the round. CAG's in a 3v1 with half of the time still left on the clock.
High risk, high reward. Trigger discipline. Had it worked in his favor, he would have gotten 2 kills. Sure, could have gotten 1 for FURIA and Frost. He wanted more though. The flanking from Alligator trying to get a cheeky counter handy, but he runs away. Up the stairs he goes. Might be a little bit of a tactical timeout maybe. Try and run away. You have a minute and 10 seconds left. You can talk amongst each other, of course. Your coach can't join you, but in these moments when nothing's really happening, FURIA as well as Cyclops can take a moment to chill. That's not what we're going to be doing though, because half HP left on hand. He finds his 5th kill here in round 3. Leaving you in a 1 versus 2 with plenty of time to go. 3 flashbangs, 14 X-Cairo pallets. Actually a winnable situation for FURIA if Handy plays this correctly or if Cyclops gives him those 1 versus 1 situations.
I mean, Handy's looking for it. You have to admire that. It certainly did seem like it would be a timeout. Cyclops gets the final kill, by the way. That was largely a formality, but you're right. It sure seemed like it was going to be one of those technical timeouts where you just sit outside and you're technically taking a timeout, but you're not actually taking one. This is just...
Listen. If that had worked, you'd have praised his big brain.
Stuff like that.
But because it just didn't.
Peeves me, man. It just peeves me. I get real PO'd. Get real PO'd.
I respect the effort, and I mean, it could have been worse, right? Imagine he hadn't killed the Frost, just died to Valkyrie, then we could really make fun of him. But he got the 1-for-1 trade, worst case, which isn't the end of the world, and had Fantasy not fallen earlier in the round alone, because we spoke about that against XSET, sometimes Fantasy goes too far ahead of his team without a drone, without a trade. That round, perfect example. Rushes in the building with confidence, thinks he knows where someone is, but since there's no follow-up and no drone to help him, he just runs past the person, gets shot in the back of his head, and you play 4 versus 5. So, Fantasy being FURIA's biggest spearhead, biggest advantage aggressively in the early round, also sometimes their biggest downfall at the same time. Fantasy goes back to the OSAT. This is great for basement. Once you get into OSAT server area, you can start breaching open up the walls and just get nice line of sight. Normally when OSA gets picked, it's a direct server attack as well. So let's see if FURIA has that same thing in mind. But either way, the OSA does get a nice amount of value. You can also take her to the garage. You know, anywhere with a long distance fight is where she thrives. With 4 members of CAG in open area, they're roaming pretty heavily with assault hatches here.
Well, I mean, that's the bomb site where they've played twice, Nick, so it stands to reason that they'd want to stay in this area. But no, it's actually the bottom floor for the very first time. We haven't seen a locker CCTV defense. Leading the charge will be the OSA of Fantasy again. There's no Nook on the board. The Cyclops who took that operator out of action. And Rare is in, by the way. Watch this. There you go. Down you go. That's just a clone. And he's ADS'd, by the way. Once again, not hip firing. I promise you that. Handy is next up as the OSA shield. A Talon shield gets placed and another Adrenal Surge goes off. Grenade ready. A minute into the round and already FURIA are lining themselves up. Diffuser being planted by Handy. Nobody from CAG seems to know this. Rare taking out Gatorada, and this is a thrilling matchup. They're still upstairs in open area for CAG. They have to retake, pick off STK, but the clock will work against them. Nade goes down at the feet of Anaton as the Diffuser hits the 30-second mark, drop back to the bomb site. Gator finished off, Suzu's next to go, and it's Anaton in a 1v4. Diffuser at the halfway point. A castle with a UMP sees the drone go out, knows somebody is near, manages to duel, but not well. Handy finishes him off, and FURIA will go up another round.
And again, FURIA with that early confidence and aggression, just taking one opportunity when it arises. Lobby hatch, drop down, single player Fantasy inside the garage, clears it out again, no drone, just shield in hand. We see it play out. They tried to retake a double headshot from Cyclops, didn't work out. It was just easy pickings as you're stuck in that fall down animation. And the final gunfight did not work out because the UMP doesn't do a whole lot in that situation. So FURIA doing a really good job punishing the fact that CAG had 4 roamers in open area, knowing site was vulnerable. They just needed to get in, get the opening kill, which they did. And once that happened, well, it was easy from there on out as they got full bomb site control. And now CAG are in a very tight position. They've only won the open area defense. They cannot go back there just yet, but next round they can. So they're forced to go to bombs that they've lost on, or archives tell us with the lowest win rate by far. They're gonna go CEO. they've changed a few things, and the most notable thing to talk about here is they're bringing out the mute. Last time the mirror windows, they fell super early, the walls got opened up. Why? Because they had a mirror, but no wall deny. Nothing to stop anything from just shredding through those reinforced mirror into walls, and that's why Fantasy now is showing us a Twitch, because it's a direct counter both the mute and the mirror. STK and the Amaro, please, please don't, no.
They've got the Amaru,
No.
they've got the Lion. Watch this. Hold on a second here. Moment of truth. 3, 2, no.
Here it is.
1. Up you go, in you go in the middle of the bomb site, and just like that, the diffuser's being planted with 2 minutes and 35 seconds
They don't
left.
know.
CAG has no idea, by the way, and boom goes the dynamite. Anaton the first to die. God, this is an exciting match to watch. Anaton goes down, so does Rare. He follows. Black Ray right now on Banana. 1 and 4, not exactly the result that you want out of a star player on your team. Fantasy picks off yet another on the A Gator. Nitro Self from Suzuki goes off. It connects on STK before he's traded out by Fantasy. Still in the middle of the site. CAG will need to retake. Having some difficulties. Gatoretta back at the bomb site. He takes down Fantasy. Wall opened up, and you can get some clear passage on in, but you're running against the clock at the moment. You only have a few seconds left. Black Ray softened up, and now look at the Capcan on it, but oh, a miss! They might actually get this, but no, he gets killed at the last second. Miracles in the bomb site. Black Ray's outside. It's a reversal of fortunes, and FURIA are just trying their best to send us home as early as possible. 4-1 in what is one of the most thrilling matches we've seen in this entire group stage.
I'll say, against XSET, FURIA did do that open area rush strat, and it sort of worked out, but they lost down to a retake. They have so many different iterations of these kind of pocket rush strats, and it's working so well for them. And yes, you can argue that Cyclops are roaming too much, they're far off the bomb set, of course it's gonna work, but the only reason why FURIA is choosing to do this is 2 reasons. The attacker repick system allows you to make multiple changes to your attacking lineup that, you know, they can go for these rushes, they can change the operators around, and 2, they're granting themselves the information to make the right decisions by utilizing their drones in the prep phase. They went for a Twitch situation. They want to go passive. Last second, it's the Amaru, the Lion, the Fingas, straight to bomb site. We don't care about the mirror windows, don't care about the mute jammers. So really good information game and decision making from FURIA, punishing the mistakes of Cyclops. Now, for a brief moment, I thought they were going to stick the Amaru to the basement thing again, but they are changing their mind back to a more regular lineup. But the one thing again here, the Jackal. They want to isolate and find members of Cyclops, and maybe not necessarily using their drones, but the Jackal scanner. You can go top floor, cut off the staircases, and you know in an instant if somebody's roaming there or not. So far, FURIA playing a completely different game of Rainbow Six Siege than they did just 20 minutes ago against XSET, and they're looking so much more like themselves. And they are rushed to the basement right now, gonna go upstairs.
I mean, what do you do if you worry about whatever discrepancy that comes with playing on ping, and you're playing against a hyper aggro team like this? What's the best way to do it is be very aggressive. Anaton is ready for it this time as STK gets vanquished to the Shadow Realm, and Anaton is still there, shrugging off all these bullets that are being shot his way. Suzu taking out Rare, and FURIA on this early aggression. It doesn't quite work. Cyclops is wise to your parlor tricks, FURIA. Now there's only 2 of you left against the entire lineup of CAG. So FURIA will hit the reset button. And right on Repel is a Gator doing damage to Handy. They trade off, and finally a kill for FURIA comes in. Only took a minute. It's really early action. Half of the server almost dead. Still 6 players upright with 1:45 on the clock. And it's up to Handy and Fantasy to put this together. I would not fault them if they just simply tried to waste some time, talk to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've got an open area take. It's worked in your favor once. Cyclops won it once. And there's some low HP on CAG. This is winnable if they want to try.
It is winnable, and at the same time, though, I think FURIA wants to keep up the momentum and the pace right now. They don't want to slow down the gameplay, even though it could benefit them once they go on side swap to have like a small technical timeout right now without their coach. They want to fight CAG. That's what they're doing, and it's messy, but more bullets always wins.
Oh my goodness. Even as the impact goes off in the face of the Finka, there's 1 adrenal surge left. He'll get Handy back to full HP. Won't help Fantasy all that much, but still a brief top up. There's one of those alibi prismas playing off of the window that Anaton can hide behind. We also saw the mute not too far off of Suzu. They're very firmly entrenched on the bomb site. The puck is in. There's a huge blind spot, and it's 2 kills from CAG to end the round. That brief burst of action from Furia, not quite good enough. Cyclops have the answer, and with it, they have the round. That's the first half in the books. And Furia comes out on top 4-2.
I really enjoyed that half. I'm gonna be honest. Like,
this is one of the most enjoyable games of Rainbow Six Siege I've casted in a very long time. If I may quote Chris Traeger, it is literally some of the most fun I've ever had in this game.
Okay. That's fair. You're not even in the game, you're just watching it, Parker, but I'm really glad you're having a lot of fun because I am too, and I'm sure so does the viewers.
I think it's very uncharitable for you to say we're not in the game when we are quite literally watching it right now.
That's fair. Oh, wait a minute. I haven't seen this one before.
We have not seen an Archives.
Teller's Archives.
You and I have not casted
It's
Archives.
so bad statistically.
Tellers. Okay.
It's terrible.
Well, why don't you talk about it a little bit then?
I'll talk about it. It's bad. Period. Boom, boom. Always has been. Back before the bank rework, you go basement first, and you go Teller's Archive second, because open area wasn't a thing back then. And you would always hate winning basement because it meant you had to go Archives Tellers because, again, CO also wasn't played back then. And it was always impossible to win because attackers, they'll go top floor, they'll do vertical play. All this is soft destroyable. That's probably why Furia are setting up a defense in Janitors, doing some stuff in CEO, because they want to hold up above. Because if CAG gets up there, well, to be honest, they don't have that much vertical self-destruction. In fact, they have none, really. But if they were to go above, if they got a few kills, the bomb site is no longer safe by any means, but we also know Furia what they like to do. They're gonna take fights, jump out windows, get aggressive, and I have no doubt that their attack inside, well, I don't think the defense will be any slower.
Well, it's time for CAG to do their best Furia impression. This is one thing that we saw in a CAG a lot at SI. They love the Lion DMR, and they love the Twitch DMR. I don't know what it is.
Apex special.
I mean, they hit like a truck, I get it, but they love those DMRs. And every single time there's an opportunity to run the 417, which is the DMR, they're going to go for it. Rare with the run out, but he's a little bit too slow. Not able to do too much, but he gets away. Scoots back.
There's no hatch anymore in that. They moved the elevator hatch.
Muscle memory.
Yeah.
We'll just chalk that
It's in there.
There it is. You got the wrong elevator. That's okay.
I get that wrong still when I play Bang as well. Like, no joke. Like, it is such a big muscle memory thing, and then they change the map just a little bit. You're like, oh, my bad.
Look, when you're panicked, you don't think.
He
That's why
panicked.
I'm in gold.
He's
so.
Oh, you. Yeah. Gold 1 though, almost plat.
STK, jump out the window. Please do it. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Jump out the window.
He's looking for it.
You won't. You won't jump out the window. You won't. Oh, STK, come on. Give the people what they want. Suzu's going to completely rotate towards the back of the building. An opportunity for STK to jump out is denied. Nitro Cell from Handy takes a Gator. First kill of the second half goes in favor of Furia. Another logic bomb goes off. And that will do it for the gadgetry from Gatorada's Dokkaebi.
Well, since they haven't found a kill, they can't hack their phones either. And if they did, well, there is some stuff to be hacked. The Valkyrie cameras and default cameras are, of course, on the board. Although no bulletproof gadgets are on the bulletproof cameras, that is. Rare is still lingering around, trying to find a position to find himself comfortable in, while Blackray is looking for an opening for his team. He's making his way down the square stairs. Both the door and the window been barricaded off. Big fan of that. Valkyrie camera found out too, which means Furia on this backside half don't have a lot of vision, except for Miracle, who's playing inside the bomb site itself. Looking for a fight, swinging, gets taken down, even back the man count to 4-4, but a quick follow from N2 makes it a 4v3.
2 big kills, 3 big kills for CAG, all incredibly important with 30 seconds left. It's going to put Furia in a tough spot that goes from bad to worse as Handy's gone as well. STK, who was the one we were focusing on earlier, now has no way to rotate out. Finds it, but not before the diffuser goes down. Furia in a bit of a pickle. I'm not talking the vegetable. A drop from STK here will almost certainly spell his doom, and there it is. Anaton watching the doorway. Makes quick work of the last player of Furia. CAG showing some signs of life, and despite how exhilarating this matchup has been and the dominance that we've seen from Furia a couple times, it's a close game. Only one round for CAG separates them Raiders and Furia.
Almost tied back up now, and I mean that was like the desperation play. It had to be Telus archives. We don't see very often. We did just there, and this is why we don't see it anymore. And sure, the bomb site itself didn't play a huge part, but there just aren't a lot of strong positions you can play around, and that's why Furia got punished. CAG, despite losing the early opening pick, they managed to get the round. Basement, a much more strong suit of a bomb site, especially for Furia's lineup right now, because they got a bit of everything. They got Impacts of Valkyrie, probably because they're going to be roaming and doing stuff up above. Oryx, secondary shotgun, and again, first stopper in Rainbow Six Siege, wow. And you gave Melusi to deny entry points. Mossy for the drones, also has a C4 for plant deny. You really can play both aggressive and passively, but let's take a look at Cyclops, because they are cooking up a strategy. There it is, Anitum was showing the glass, now showing the OSA, again, great for basement, whether it's for garage or if it's a server. The Thermite is amazing for opening up the walls, and the OSA is great for denying lines of sight, or granting you rather, lines of sight with protection. And normally a Thermite OSA speaks to a server take, because now, well, you can't really get the hatches, because Ibana's not in play, and nor do you have any secondary Harbor's gadgets.
Let's just talk about that last round for 1 second. That was an
it.
Archives Teller's defense that you said was a miserably poor bomb site for the defenders, and
Yes.
it was a walk in the park for CAG.
True.
Now it's a much more standard defense. Furia maybe getting a bit too cute with their bomb site selection. Again, this goes back to something that I talked about, which is that if you don't respect your opponents, you wind up in trouble. I honestly felt like that was at play with OXG and Team 1. They were kind of playing cocky at the beginning, kind of having too much fun, not really understanding that just because they're in Mexico doesn't mean that Team 1 are suddenly a much weaker foe. There's a reason why they're here. There's a reason why a brand new assembled roster has made it to the top 4 in LATAM. And let me tell you, it's not because teams play cute against them.
Nope.
So could it be that Furia is feeling the same way about CAG? Possibly. That would be something to talk about in an exit interview. First minute off of the clock as it's a Lockers CCTV defense, much more standard downstairs in a bomb site with significantly higher win rate.
Absolutely. We see the first impact being used from Fantasy on the roam game, still playing out of open area. CAG haven't really done anything this round so far. They've been rotating outside the building, around the block. And Suzushi, I mean, practically still in spawn, halfway through the round, fishing for a kill with no real information, and it looks like they've changed their minds. They're trying to clear top 4 to then go for a server take, but they gotta really speed up, because otherwise this clock will be a problem. Sure, there's no good on the board, but there is a smoke.
How close do you think STK is to his monitor right now?
Oh,
He sees it,
close
lines
enough.
up. Aniton is down for the count. No Talon shields to be used at all from the OSA. Gatorado will follow in the afterlife. 2 big picks from Furia, playing a little bit more bog standard, but that's the cuteness that we talked about. You're already up by 2. Why is Fantasy leaping out the window with a minute to go on a Lockers defense, for crying out loud?
I agree. I mean, he jumped out first and got in the opening kill. You know, trading 1-for-1, fine. But you already have the advantage. You don't need to be the hero because your teammates already have done that job. Of course, not a huge loss. You had impacts, no C4, and you got that 4 versus 3. So you are still in the man count lead. CAG have to like desperately like open the hatch and drop it down fast or something like that. They don't have the time or the resources. 4 smoke grenades and 1 grenade is all they got to work with. Toxic Babes are coming out. 1 C4 on the pop of Rare might play a big factor in this round. And there we go. Grenades, and soon to follow should be players dropping down these hatches.
STK is prepared for that. Do or die at the moment. 10 seconds to go. You got good weaponry in the hands of CAG. Down goes STK. They were prepped and ready for it. Now Miracle follows. All of a sudden, CAG are whisking their way through the bomb sites, but Handy keeps it together. Repositions, and Rare with 2 huge kills. A Nitro Cell tosses out and gets 2 for the price of 1. Furia pick up round number 5 on impressive fashion and deny Cyclops the tie that they so desperately wanted.
We're so close, right? It comes down to a 2v2 with just seconds down the clock. And we speak about it again. If Fantasy hadn't jumped out that window and taken that unnecessary risk to try and get 1 more kill for his team, maybe Furia could have looked a little bit more convincing in that round. We're going to keep going, though. And Furia, they're going to go back to open area, a familiar and comfortable position for them in their previous matchup. And actually Handy, keeping up with the Oryx, playing it now for 2 different bomb sites. So Fantasy with the Capcan, so obviously we're expecting CAG to go fast, maybe skip a step or two. That's where the Capcan comes in very, very handy because, well, when you go too fast, you hit a Capcan trap, you take half your HP away, and sure enough, when I get us on the finger, you can boost people right back up, but not all the way, only about a quarter of the full HP per adrenaline surge, so the damage really does play a big factor. The earlier you can get rid of those adrenaline surges, well, the better you are off in the late stage of the round for the side execute itself. Flores and Thatcher being picked up, which is actually kind of surprising to me because you only have Ace as a hard breach operator. When you have one impact grenade on the side of STK, there is a very likely chance that that could be a factor. You have limited breach capabilities, and if their hatches are reinforced above the bomb site, you can't both get the hatch and the wall when you're only playing the Ace. So let's try and keep that in mind for like the next minute and a half and see if that bites CAG or not.
Another early EE1D use. It's going to be a first floor defense, but not that Teller's Archives bomb site like before. No, this is going to be an open area again. A far more defendable bomb site with a more favorable result for FURIA in mind. Though they will still be defending this portion of the map down below, as we talked about before, you want to have those avenues around the bomb site to keep map control so that the attackers can't just walk right in. And both of these teams know a thing or two about just waltzing right in. FURIA, in particular, has been so adept at finding an area and just exploiting it and getting right in. Another E1D goes out. There's one remaining from the Lion. Look at that. Gator with the first kill, but Rare trades him off immediately. An explosion inside of the bomb site doesn't help either team. But the Finca is down, and the smoke is down for FURIA. Both teams losing a very critical component of their strategy.
It was very peculiar to me because Miracle actually had used one Toxic Babe when he got taken down already, so very early use of that smoke canister. Normally we wait a bit. These punches from STK, I'm surprised Black Red didn't hear it. It hasn't seen the punches either, but maybe they know. Yellow Ping is coming out and STK just trying to make as much noise as possible upstairs. But there's clearly no information on the side of FURIA because he's expecting someone to be here, but nope, it's Rare fighting people inside Electric. Wall gonna get opened up, but they are jammed, so they're gonna have to wait for that EMP to come out, but there it is. That's gonna open up the round for CAG and create nice lines of sight for them.
So odd to see a Thatcher and Flores available in the same matchup, but here you are, lots of utility available. DMR of Anaton doing some damage. He's got a couple targets, but he can't do much with them. Still tons of utility for CAG. STK with the run on, as was talked about before. Might be a bit of a hero play, but he'll get away as Suzu's attention is elsewhere. Fantasy dies in the bomb site. Black Ray with a kill for CAG to keep the numbers even, but STK needs to get back in. Meanwhile, Handy takes one down with him as Suzu finishes that one off, and it leaves STK to get back in, but it's a Capcan trap from the grave. Fantasy with one, and suddenly it's winnable for FURIA. All they need to do is find Suzu, who's got the target acquired, and it's going to be a shootout with 30 seconds to go. Watch out for those other Capcan traps on other doors because even though he's dead, Fantasy can still do so much. Suzu attempting the diffuser with 15 seconds down. No plant denial for STK. He creeps up. There's a drone on him. And off of the plant he goes, and he wins the gunfight. FURIA will go on to match point as he unloads and knifes at the corpse. Now almost too close for comfort. If you're a fan of FURIA, you can take a deep breath and let the air from your lungs filter out and exhale. Timeout being called immediately from Cyclops to try and answer this aggression from FURIA and get themselves back on track as this match has slipped away from the Japanese team.
The Capcan trap.
Boom! I actually can't believe that.
Saving grace, really, because I mean that was the 1v2 into a 1v1 repick, but he chose the Echo first, changed his mind while you could pick your operators, and went to the Rook instead. That's what that signifies. In other words, 1.5x scope to a 2.0 scope most likely, because Fantasy wants to fight these long lines of sight. And if you look at this, Glass and probably a DMR from Gatorada means long lines of sight is what CAG wants as well.
Oh, it feels very fitting, doesn't it? The very first round of the very first match that we did today started off with a Rook on defense in the theme park. And what could be the final round of our final match today ends with a Rook.
Is C4 spawn peak on ATM? He's like, I don't know what I'm doing either. They have a yellow ping. You might be in trouble here. Gotta run for your life. Maybe these metal railings will help you.
Good trigger discipline from Gatorada, and it looks like he's actually going to get away. Gatorada had a small window of opportunity, doesn't bother to take it, as, again, he doesn't pull trigger. That opportunity there, as we discussed.
Slipped away.
But he manages to get away, so Rare is now deep living inside of Archives. Not a thing of the past, still very much the present.
The glass, of course, the key operator, the smoke from Gatorada on the Dokkaebi as well plays into that execute strategy. The thermal issue from glass means that nobody can really see back through the smoke because Warden's not in play on the defensive side. We do see here the 2.0x scope, long lines of sight opened up for the defenders, which means right now all is good in the world. But once the smoke grenades comes out from Anytone, it's going to be much more difficult to defend anything on this bomb side.
That's the first logic bomb used by Gatorada as the window gets shot out. STK knew this part of the map quite well against in their previous matchup against XSET, but can he still make it work? Obviously, CAG will not be as practiced here for it. Oh no, the beam in the middle. He can't see it in the glass. Finishes him off. STK the first to fall. Cyclops with an advantage. Expecting a re-peek. As the glass posted up on that spot. Gator down below to catch somebody through open area in case there is a rotate from Furia.
Gatorada is still on that lobby rappel on the north or the west side, sorry. Waiting for someone to go into lobby, but so far good discipline from Furia standing still, but Fantasy gets a kill onto the glass of all operators. That's the key execute operator off the board for CAG. That's gonna make their entire strategy so much more difficult to execute.
There's nades ready to get tossed on in as a magnet catches what sounds like a Selman, and Adrenal Surge goes out too. Suzu can swing into the bomb site whenever he so chooses. He's got a long line of sight towards that janitor closet, but there's nobody to pressure him. Fantasy, as you talked about with that long-range scope, he's going to reposition and sees the head, takes a gun duel that may be not the smartest of ideas. Down goes Gator, and now it's a run out from Rare! He catches two of them for his trouble before the Nitro Cell goes off. One on rappel, another on a window, and the two remaining members from CAG are still in that position with 20 seconds to go. But they have to get into the bomb site, as if they don't, that's the game for them. Miracle contesting inside a janitor. He'll reposition, both teams doing tons of damage to each other as Fantasy has been down in the onslaught. CAG have two more bodies to find. They're desperately running out of time with only 5 seconds to go. Miracle needs to stay alive. He catches one and both. It's not a miracle. Again, it's reality. CAG tried their best, but Furia pick up a huge win over their group mates, 7-3. Oh boy, this group just got an awful lot more interesting, Nick.
And Furia also took us to a map they had just lost on previously,